You're going to fall in love over and over again. That is your journey.
Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today it's going to be a wedding Q&A to kickstart my upcoming wedding series. I've been wanting to do a wedding series just to document our process of planning our own wedding. We have some like case tasting videos, we have like engagement shoot styling and invitation breakdown, all of those details coming up. But I thought it would be a great start to give you guys a little background of our wedding so far. So I popped on a Q&A little box on Instagram a few weeks ago, and you guys submitted some of the questions, and so we're going to answer them today. Just as a little background though, we got engaged August 22nd in 2020, so on our 5 years anniversary. I never really want to rush into a wedding right away, just because I feel like an engagement is like making a commitment to each other after the dating process. And the wedding is just kind of to make things legally official. And just to preface things, our wedding is going to be very small, almost micro intimate wedding. It is something that I always envisioned myself having. Luckily, thanks to COVID, weirdly, it really became a thing. Like micro weddings really became a thing. So we're looking to just have a small wedding of 25 to 30 guests in London, just to give you guys some context of everything else that we're going to talk about. So with no further ado, let's get into the very first question.
First question is, when is the wedding date? It's gonna be the 10th of October this year, 6 months away from now. So how do we come up with this date?
So like I said, we never really have a timeline of when we're going to get married, but I guess it really came randomly out of the blue when we're on a car drive together. We're like, okay, let's think of the upcoming years. It's 2022 next year, 2023, 2024, and 2025. So I kind of am OCD with numbers. I kind of like neat looking numbers if I can. So 2023 is kind of odd. 2024, because the 4 kind of connotates death in Chinese, I want to avoid that. Otherwise, by the time that's going to be 2025, I realized that I'm going to be turning 32. So I just kind of want to get married earlier on, and that's how we come up with the year 2022. Originally, we wanted to get married on our anniversaries. However, due to various personal reasons, we had to choose another date in Q4 of 2022. So we looked at like good dates or lucky dates that are good for marriage and just kind of picked a date from there. We picked a date relatively early on in autumn, so it's not too cold, but it's still like not too hot. So that's kind of how we settled on the 10th of October 2022, which my mom was like, oh, it sounds like sapa, which is not really like, it's kind of like a silly phrase in Chinese, but I kind of liked the number more, so that kind of fitted our criteria. Hence, our wedding is going to be on the 10th of October 2022.
Second question, where will the wedding be? It'll be in London.
Yeah, so there are a lot of like amazing dreamy places in the UK. There's like castles and a lot of like beautiful venues. But because most of our family members will be flying over, I would say like 90%, 95%
Most of them.
of our guests are going to be flying over from abroad. London just seems like the most convenient places to, house them all together, just because London has like great transportation, great food, so it's just easier in terms of logistic. London is also my favorite city, so it was kind of like a no-brainer. I already had like a venue in mind, so yeah, that is where the wedding is going to be.
Third question, what is the vibe or theme aesthetic?
So I guess modern classic is the best way to describe our wedding style. I'll insert some of my Pinterest images right here. The venue that we chose has a very beautiful, ornate Victorian design, and it is a very classic architecture in London, but we're also going to have it in a restaurant, which is a classic London restaurant but recently revamped, so that kind of gives it a modern twist. But yeah, modern classic would be the style of our wedding. Next question.
Everything. Well, that's not a question, sorry.
I think that's Lucy. Next, how has planning your wedding been? I would say at the beginning it is quite daunting just because it is a completely new area of work and research. Like you just don't know where to start. But the very best thing that I did initially is to get a wedding planner notebook, which gives you all of the to-dos like 12 months out, 6 months out, and that really helps break down what like the priorities are. So like 12 to 18 months, you should start looking at your venue, research on photographer. It really helped us like break down into little easier tasks. It was very daunting, especially like when it comes to the legal terms of things as well. You have to, you know, look at officiant, like all these terms are relatively new. After we hopped on a call with our photographer, videographer, had a meeting with our florist, it was quite simple afterwards. Like after we paid the deposit and everything, the vendors that we selected are very style specific. Like you want to choose someone that does the style of work that you like, rather than choosing someone but asking them to do a different style. Otherwise it's quite complicated or makes it a little bit harder to, you know, communicate with them. Yeah, so the most recent things that we've been doing for the wedding has been mailing out our invitations. So I think my parents are actually receiving the invitation today. I saw DHL like delivered. I guess it's pretty chill from now till June. June is when we're going to have our pre-wedding shoot. Our photographer gave us a schedule yesterday. It already sounds like a very long day. But otherwise, I think the next like complicated things is when family and friends RSVP over and we kind of, you know, they fly over and you want to kind of see them as well. So if my friends come over, I do want to, you know, have some time with them as well. So it's just juggling the timeline, like hanging out with them or whatever. So that's kind of like the next thing. But I think that would be when it's like closer to the wedding. But yeah, that is how planning our wedding is so far. I would say Brian is pretty like easygoing and straightforward. Thankfully, I think your style, your preferences are quite similar to mine, would you say? So
just easygoing in general. Next question is, how has budgeting for all the expenses gone?
that's a quite direct question. But I guess when it comes to wedding budgets, it really depends on, you know, it varies person to person. After the wedding, I'm planning to do a wedding budget breakdown, just because when I watch some of the girls do their budget breakdown, it really gives me perspective of how much actually things cost. You do have to remember at the end of the day, it is a whole amount for one single day. Not even like 24 hours, like 5-6 hours, given the style of our wedding. So we sat down and came up with an amount that we are like comfortable in spending for one single 6 hours. And we just picked 3.5 areas that are important to us, which are photographer, videographer, florist, and food. Just because videos and photos are kind of the only tangible things you can really take away from your wedding day. Florist because I work in flowers, but otherwise food, we are quite like, we like some good food, right? So we have to make sure that the food is great. But yeah, once we decided on those 3 areas, a lot of things we kind of compromised in. For example, due to the style of our wedding venue is cut significantly. Our wedding is on a Monday, so that actually helped cut the cost as well. I wasn't aware that Monday weddings weren't a thing until your sister said, oh, it's on a Monday. Yeah. Just because a lot of our family and friends are flying abroad, so it didn't really matter to us. But yeah, having a weekday wedding also helped cut the cost. I also really wanted like the cartel ghost chairs, but for a, you know, ceremony that's going to last like 30 minutes, it didn't really felt right, like not even like the amount, but logistically having them to move the chairs in without a wedding coordinator, everything. Another thing is because we don't have like alcohol or a bar, that also helped with the cost by a bit. I wasn't quite bothered with couture wedding dress gowns. So speaking of that then, where will or did you buy your wedding dress? So I actually got my wedding dress relatively early on during the wedding planning process. Obviously, if I can, I would love to visit, like there's so many beautiful bridal boutiques in UK. Like I think it's called the White Closet in Manchester or the Fob Bride in London. Designers like New White do amazing couture gowns. But when it comes to trying on dresses, you know, I don't really have a lot of family members in the UK. So it just didn't really felt comfortable going all the way there, and as well as spending so much money on a dress that I'll wear for 2 to 3 hours, just because after the ceremony I'm actually going to get changed. So yeah, I just didn't really feel the need of that. So my wedding dress is actually from the Highstreet, and we bought it online, tried it on, and went to a local seamstress or tailor to get some areas of the dress custom made and fitted to my body frame. So yeah, I actually ended up spending less than £500 on the dress, excluding the tailoring, but the tailoring didn't really cost a lot as well.
It didn't cost at all.
Yeah, so I'm actually quite happy with, you know, this dress I'm going to wear maximum 5 hours in my whole entire life. So yeah, I'm excited for that. Next question, what kind of dress do I like? Besides the white blazer suit that I'll be changing into after the reception, I never really see myself in a ball gown or something with a lot of lace or like heavy embellishments. Even like anything that's vintage vibes. I kind of like something a little bit more minimal, clean, and timeless, modern, would you say? Yeah, so referencing like the designs that I like from New White, they're actually like super beautiful. So my dress actually have a similar neckline of like the clothes that I normally wear on a day-to-day basis, but I added in, you know, some drama from leaving like a longer train, and also paired with an extra long veil just to give it a little bit more, you know, classic touch to it. Yeah, so yeah, something more minimal, light, not too heavy.
Wedding perfume.
Well, we wanted a wedding perfume. I wanted a wedding perfume just because I feel like a scent really can remind you of your special day. We were going to look at various Tom Ford fragrances, but none of them really actually felt that nice. So Brian actually has 2 perfumes that he loves from Louis Vuitton, which is Louis Vuitton Orange
and Nouveau Monday.
Okay, that's. I also have a Louis Vuitton perfume, like a rosy one, but it just smelled a little bit too heavy for the day. So you're happy to wear that on your day. I don't think we're going to get like matching perfume, but I don't think people actually get matching perfume. But you already.
How do you get a matching perfume anyway?
I guess like
The same
from the
perfume?
same brand, or
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm looking into Replica by Maison Margiela and Byredo, but that is something that I'm going to look at on our next trip down to London, which is in June. So hopefully we can choose something. Otherwise, I should be able to choose something. Okay,
So, what do you plan on doing with your hair?
let's talk about you first. So we are actually trying out a new hair salon founded by Hong Kongers in the UK as well, which we're super excited about. So I think he's going to grow out his hair from now till June
This bush.
and get a haircut by them before our pre-wedding shoot. On my actual wedding day, I think I'm going to have like a sleek back front and more volume at the back. I think the best way for me is to insert some pictures here. I'm still deciding between if I want like a very neat Hollywood wave or more natural curls. I feel like natural curls suit my day-to-day lifestyle more and it's a little bit more casual, but do you want to go a little bit more dramatic on your wedding day? I'm still not sure. But otherwise, I'm going to get my hair color to a more gray, ashy brown color. I already went to our makeup artist and hairstylist for a trial, which I'll insert some pictures here as well, just to give you guys an idea of what the wedding hair it's going to be like. Have you found your bridal bag yet? Excited for you. Thank you. Well, I've been looking into like bridal bags. I feel like bridal bags are quite fun and an excuse to get a new bag to signify
Always.
this. I haven't bought a bag this
Since
year.
a long time, yeah.
I know that Kao do like very unique shell pearl, mother of pearl clutch, but I felt like those are a bit one-off and I can't really get my cost per wear out of it. I also like always go back to Jacquemus or Jacquemus?
Jacquemus, I think.
Yeah, and I always go back to Jacquemus, but I don't feel like you quite like that, don't you? Like the tiny little bags.
Oh, I hate them.
You hate them as well.
They're useless.
Right,
It's
so
like tiny little
even if I
things.
always go back to it, yeah, Brian doesn't approve, so maybe
it's-
not.
No, I'm not. And not that I didn't approve. I'm just saying that they do not.
They're
just too small.
Ugly.
I
Anyways,
didn't say ugly. I said they're useless.
okay, right. Otherwise, we have the Prada Clio, which I'll insert a picture here. I saw one on flannels, but that was like a silver one. So I also have my eyes on the Fendigraphy in this small or the charm. Fendigraphy. Fendigraphy. Oh, okay. I don't know.
It's just how you say things.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. But yeah, the Fendigraphy. Otherwise, we also have like the Dior. I think Dior came out with a Lady D Joy bag. So I guess we do have some shopping to do in London in June. So these are all of the potentials. Let me know what you think.
Are we doing a first look? No.
Just because Brian has already seen my dress. Given my situation, again, we didn't really go for, like, I don't have like a bunch of friends or family members to go dress shopping. Like, and even if so, honestly, I will feel quite uncomfortable just because everyone has different opinions and I can be quite particular. So I actually preferred it this way. We bought my dress online. I showed him my dress and he came to all of the tailoring appointments. So no, it might be a shocker and like not lucky for your groom to see the dress prior to, but we're not superstitious that way. Staying together the night prior to, so there wasn't really a point. All right, next.
Are we doing personal vows? No.
Just because we have been dating for 7 years now, lived together for 2 years, haven't killed each other yet.
Well, I'm missing a few arms and legs, I guess.
And we've been doing long distance for 5 years. I would say I've been through a lot.
Too much.
Too much. I think the best way to say is we're quite like samjiu in Chinese. And I feel like there are a lot of pressure when it comes to writing your own vows. You want to be not cliche, you want to be super heartfelt. And yeah, I feel like there's just a lot of pressure to write something like that. The more traditional modern vows that we're going to do in our wedding, it's already meaningful enough, I would say. So no, we're not doing our personal vows.
Are we thinking of having an unplugged ceremony?
Yes. So an unplugged ceremony basically is when you let your guests know that, you know, no phones or videos are allowed during your ceremony, which I never knew is the word unplugged ceremony. I feel like unplugged is quite a weird word just because you unplug your headphones, but you don't unplug a ceremony. So yeah, we are planning to have an unplugged ceremony, but we didn't write it on our invitations. Again, just because we don't like the term unplugged, we're going to have our officiant announce that so that people aren't like taking photos when you walk down the aisle or when you're like signing the papers. They just feel more private and intimate, and they won't be like sending pictures to people that we're not familiar with. So yes, we're going to have an unplugged ceremony.
What's the biggest fight that we've had about the wedding?
Spill the tea. I would say during the whole entire wedding planning process, it has been quite smooth and easygoing. Yeah, just because usually I would do my own research, get the quotations, kind of gather all the information and present it to you, ask for like your approval and a go ahead on things. So
And I seldom say no. I'm just like, yeah, cool, good.
just when our ideas are good.
Yeah.
So I would say the only time that we have an argument, a tense conversation, was when my parents brought up the need of having a Chinese traditional custom to be performed. So there are a lot of like Chinese traditional wedding customs or practices, and I swear we called our parents and I said, is there any traditional thingies that you want to do? And they said no. But one day my dad called and be like, hey, we need to talk. I'm like, what? And then he's like, well, we would like this and that to be done. So basically they requested Brian, the groom, and the groom's family to present like a monetary gift as a bride price. It essentially represents their gestures of thanking my parents for raising such daughter and that it's a kind of like a promise that he will take care of me in the upcoming future. This gesture can be in a lot of different forms. It can be in a form of very big extravagant gifts like coconuts, fruits, dry seafood, but my parents just opted for a more straightforward lychee packet. And I try to ask them like, what kind of value are you looking into? Because we don't want to set a price too high that it really did felt like you're buying me, because we don't view marriage that way. I kind of view marriage as two families merging together, so us gaining Brian and Brian gaining us, vice versa. And we don't want to like lowball my parents as kind of like an insult. So I asked my dad for a hint of what value we're looking into, and he's like, what price do you put on something that does not have a price? So it was quite a challenge, especially because Brian's family did not have such practices, so we don't know where to start with. So yeah, we went through quite a rough patch. I wasn't in the best mood during that time as well, just because it was just hard to ask something from you, especially because it was so unexpected expense. At the same time, I really want to respect my parents' request just because my dad purposefully called for such request. So luckily,
it's all behind us now.
It's all behind us now. Both families agreed on something, and so yeah, that was the roughest patch, and luckily it was resolved. Otherwise it would be a different story today. So yeah, last question. Are you guys going on an honeymoon? Where are you going? Where do you want to go to honeymoon?
I want to go to Seoul, but that's not a honeymoon place, I would say.
Yeah, so we were meaning to go to Seoul, Korea for 2 years now. We were going to go in April 2020, but because of the start of the pandemic, we decided to cancel that trip last minute. It has been like kind of like the next place to take off our list. Even though Seoul, Korea is not really a honeymoon place, if we can travel anywhere now, we would go to Seoul, just, you know,
for a time
eat our heart out. But for a honeymoon, I don't think we're going to go to honeymoon right after our wedding, just because it's going to be like cold and stuff. But if Seoul is not something that we can check off the list in 2023, I would love to go to like Italy, like Capri or Positano, all those like exotic Europe places. Otherwise, Maldives is always a good idea. So no plans to go to honeymoon right after the wedding, but Seoul or Italy would be hopefully something that we can go to in 2023. We both are, well, he especially is in need of a holiday for sure.
Away from exams, I guess.
Yeah. So I guess that's all for today's questions. Thank you everyone for submitting. Hope this kind of gives you an idea of what our wedding is going to be like. Like I said, we're going to have like upcoming wedding series like cake tasting videos. I do have that recorded. I just don't know how to insert that into our series. We also have a breakdown of our full wedding invitation, but of course like engagement shoot, styling, and behind the scenes, which I'm very looking forward to. Otherwise, I hope you guys enjoyed today's Q&A. Thank you, Brian, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So if you look forward to upcoming wedding series or wedding content, don't forget to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. Otherwise, we shall see you guys in our next one. Take care, guys.
Bye.
Bye.